All right, back to one of our top stories. In Northern California, a rescue mission has turned into a recovery effort. Officials say 8 of the 9 skiers reported missing after an avalanche have been found dead. The 9th skier is still missing, but authorities assume that person was also killed. The avalanche is among the deadliest snowslides in U.S. history. CBS News chief correspondent Matt Gutman joins us once again from Truckee, California. This is just a few miles from where it happened. Matt, good morning. This time yesterday, you were telling me about the treacherous conditions. There's only been intense snow since then. So tell us about this recovery effort and what happened to the victims.
When we spoke yesterday, Errol, we were under the impression that this was still a search and rescue mission. And there was this stunning revelation in a press conference yesterday in which the sheriff said this is now a recovery mission. We have found 8 of the 9 people missing. They were buried in the snow. They presume that that 9th person is dead. And because the snow keeps falling, and I just want to give you a sense of how much snow is falling, right? These mounds you see behind me everywhere, they're actually cars buried in there. I mean, that's how much snow has fallen just over the past few days. That has hampered the recovery. And because those people are no longer alive, the sheriff has decided to put the recovery mission on pause. They're going to wait for this weather to clear. They're going to wait for that avalanche threat to clear because it's still persistent right now because of the weight of all of this snow has fallen. They do not want to jeopardize the safety of rescuers to send them back up there. So right now, those bodies are apparently in a secure place, or they have been somehow secured from additional avalanche or possibly being buried again somehow, and they're going to wait for the weather to clear, possibly tomorrow, to go back up there. But obviously this is a horrible gut punch, not just for the family members, obviously, but for this community at large, Errol.
Yeah, and Matt, so many people have skied in this part of the country near Lake Tahoe. Locals know how to deal with this amount of snow. And I think yesterday you were speaking about these skiers possibly being on a tour with experts. And there were warnings ahead of this storm. So what are we learning about the victims and why they were out?
So there are obviously multiple ski resorts, as you just mentioned, in this area. One of them is called Sugar Bowl. And Sugar Bowl has a ski school and snowboarding and ski club that is attached to it called the Sugar Bowl Academy. And last night, the school released a statement saying that several of the people killed, we don't know how many, remember, most of them, Errol, were women. So several of the people killed were members of the Sugar Bowl Academy community. Obviously devastating. We don't know the identities, but it leads us to understand that at least those people were mothers of children who attended that academy. So we're learning more about who was involved and who was killed. That as the outfitter, which is called Blackbird Mountain Guides, also released a statement overnight. And they basically said that all of the guides on that strip were actually avalanche instructors. They were very, very high-level ski instructors in general, but they were very familiar with avalanches as well, and that these people were communicating with base, i.e. the company, regularly about conditions and routes. And so there are so many questions right now about why they stayed out there 48 hours after that first avalanche watch was issued, Errol.
Exactly. So confusing and heartbreaking in what is now one of the deadliest avalanches in U.S. history. Matt Gutman, all over this story. Matt, we appreciate your reporting. Right. Thank you.